Hello, and welcome to the Max Revenue Show. I am your host, Trey Shields, the mediocre producer, joined by the Zen master of commercial insurance, Micah Salas. Micah, how are you this morning?
Awesome. How are you?
Another day. We had the norovirus or whatever that is come through the
Mm.
house. Oh, about
You
every
lose like
60
10 pounds?
days.
Get that spring
Yes.
break body? That's the
Mm-hmm.
best way to get the spring break body.
Have you? This is going to make me sound uh, whatever gay. But have you ever seen Devil Wears Prada, where she's like, "I'm just one stomach virus away from my ideal weight."
It's a good line. I haven't seen
Anyways,
it, but,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I have. So take that for whatever you want. All right, so let's jump right into it. I saw you put up a post about you basically wrote something on your Substack about a noob in their first year of production that wrote 400 and something thousand,
Hmm.
which is mind boggling. Um, so I don't want to spoil anything, but can you tell us how this newbie, without being handed business, wrote 400 and something thousand from scratch? Can you just give us this story, basically replay your Substack,
Yeah,
and then let us clearly there's got to be a story behind the story. So whenever there are outliers, there usually is. So, anyways, just set it up and then give us your take on the whole thing at the end.
sure, sure. Yeah, so the setup is, well, I know the numbers are real, first of all. And we're talking revenue. Let's clarify that, not premium. So 450,000 of revenue. And I know the numbers are real because I happen to work with this person. So first of all, so just
Here
in case you're
at your
wondering,
company,
yes, yes. Okay, so here's the deal. We had you see people's sales numbers or whatever. We don't actually push it that hard at our agency, but you see them when you have a monthly sales meeting and kind of see the people at the top. And this, I hadn't really paid attention the last couple months, so I didn't know who was. I knew he was doing well, but I didn't know what his exact numbers were. Anyways, he spoke at our sales meeting this past week, and I missed it because I was on a client call, and I was teleconferencing in, and so I called him. I just reached out to him and said, "Hey, man, can you just what did you share at the meeting? I know you've done really well, and we talked when he first started, and so we started talking numbers, and the dude put up 450,000 in 13 months, and 34 clients or something like that, 33, 34. So that's the numbers. Um, and I was like, man, what are you doing? Like, are you just following kind of the drop-in method? Because I knew we talked when he started. We were both ex-federated guys, and now he'd worked there for about a couple years in the field. This was a long time ago before I even did. And then he got promoted to management, and then he was in a management role back, where he's living now. And I think he just kind of had that like hunger to like get out there and produce. And was kind of getting sick of just managing people. But he hadn't really. So when you say noob, he hadn't sold insurance directly though. He wasn't quite a noob. He had knowledge, right, of insurance and kind of how it worked, but he hadn't sold it for directly for a long time. Probably almost a decade. And also when he did sell, that was a different territory. And if you know the federated model, it's still that's even a learning curve in and of itself because when I transitioned and most people to like independent agency side from federated direct marketing rep, the world's a lot bigger than you realize. There's just different things you're not always just aware of as a federated rep. So that's not bad. It just is what it is. So he had all that kind of working against him. But yeah, then he goes out here his first year and crushes it. And so I was like, hey man, like, what did you do? He's like, he kind of just chuckles. He's like, I just basically followed the federated business plan. So kudos to federated, I guess. If you don't know their business plan, I'll tell it to you guys listening. Um, and I don't think it's perfect, but I think there's a lot of benefit to it. I think, but basically, it is 10 calls a day, 10 drop-ins a day to 10, business owners, right? That's Monday through Friday. and it's all about organization, right? Sunday night, you got to be very organized, or it could be Monday morning, whatever. But you map out your whole week and you divide your whole territory by zones. Like I had 5 different zones when I did it on a little map I printed out, and then I coded it in my CRM system that we used, like code 1 through 5. And so then I knew on Friday if I was going to be going to zone 5, I could just pull up, I could just search in my CRM zone 5. All the prospects I ever called in there would be in zone 5, right? And that's the power of being organized because you can quickly kind of map. So then you just pick who you want to call. And so, or if you have renewals coming up, if it's clients, if it's prospects, whatever, you search zone 5, and then you just put them into a little like a Google Maps, and you can map out your route. We used to use something called Streets and Trips. They no longer, I think that product is no longer in existence, but it would map out your whole day, the miles and everything, and then you could keep track of it that way. But Google Maps does a pretty similar thing. So you plugged them all in, it would map out your route. You hit the ground, you kind of you look at all the places you want to stop, and then you pick kind of something to drop in at each one, put it in your car, or maybe you keep a box in your car if you're doing it every day, like we were doing. I had a whole filing cabinet in my car of different drop it, like different things that I was going to pull out at different type of opportunities. You know, it could be something on life insurance, whatever, and then you just pop in, you know, and I don't know if this guy is using everything to the T. Like, so we did a lot of face cards. It's basically a little postcard with your picture on it. You write a little handwritten note every time you dropped in, you know, but that's kind of the key. That's where you left a note for the business owner, and then you drop something of relevance. Um, so yeah, that's basically what he's doing. You know, I would say he's in a more rural territory. Um, a couple things that he has going for him. He's in a more rural territory. He's in the Midwest. He has a very good construction background because his family was in construction. He said that to me. He's like, it just helps, you know, like for me personally, I can talk the talk, and then he's just old school. He's just like, I just walk in, introduce myself. I'm good at looking at the walls and being like, hey, you know, making small talk about the community, the city, whatever. And that's what he does. And clearly it's worked pretty well. 34 wins, you know, to 34 wins. So he would personally like to get his average size account up, but I was like, dude, it's your first year. And honestly, you're doing just fine. He also said, hey, I'd like to get better on the phones. I don't do any phone calls because there are some days where it
Why
would be
would he
better.
need to get better on the phone? That's so
Yeah,
silly.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
trying to optimize. I mean, that's just absolutely dumb. So,
So
can I ask you a
here's,
couple questions? I have so many questions.
yes, but let me make one quick thing on the phone thing. This is the only downfall I can see to doing the all drop in method is as your book continues to grow, it will get, uh, unless you have a really, really good service person who does everything for you. We all know our inbox can get pretty jammed up pretty quickly. So if you're on the trying to be on the road 6 hours, 7 hours a day, doing all these drop-ins, um, as your book grows, that will be tougher to stay as efficient, I think, and to keep your clients happy, right? To do all of everything, and that's where I think like drop-ins, I think is awesome. But then I think when you get to a certain size, you want to start probably working in phones as well because it allows you to be more efficient. That's just kind of that's the only downside I can see to it. It's not saying you shouldn't even do it 100%. It's just me thinking in the future for, you know, for people that would follow this method. So,
Okay,
um,
so many questions.
okay.
Okay, so don't go down the rabbit hole with each one of these. Just try to give me as concise of an answer as possible. Is he quoting?
Yes, he's quoted a couple. I didn't get his breakdown. Let me just add to that. He's one, we all, you know, the picture we draw for quoting versus not quoting, where you draw like two agents going to the market and there's like lines all over the place. We included this in actually in our course, I think, this handout, like the old, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yep.
uh, and he says that he uses that form a lot, like on first meetings, and people are like, yeah, why does this make sense? You know, yeah, using multiple agents doesn't really make a ton of sense, or maybe just using one other agent to get quotes. So it's really helped him a lot. That's like his go-to kind of page for first meetings, is just talking around how it's basically kind of sharing with insureds, you know, how things work,
Yeah,
how
how
the
the
game
insurance game
works.
works. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that slick in particular has helped him a lot, he said. And I think there's a lot of power to drawing that out for a client too, when you're just kind of on the back of a napkin, literally with people, be like, hey, this is how it works, man. So. Yes, though, to answer your question, he's quoting, but he's trying to get hired first. That he sees the but he's definitely quoted some big deals and
He's
won.
leading with he's leading with you know, explaining how the game works. I'm
Yep.
sure he's pre-qualifying, like
Oh yeah,
I'm sure he's
he's
picking his spots. He's not just like, yeah, sure you can quote, and then he's just ripping quotes. And that's the other thing is like he doesn't have a ton of time if he's on the road that much. So that's my next question is like he's got to be picking his spots because when the hell is he doing the paperwork for this many? You know what I mean? If he won 30 something clients in his first year, you know he quoted or at least worked on twice that many. When the hell is he working on all that paperwork?
well. That's what I always tell people. Your first couple years, you have no time. You have nothing to do but prospect. It's a lot of time if you think about it. We waste a lot of time. And so I just think he's just maximizing his time. He's organized, you know. Um, but I don't know if he's quoted 60 deals. I don't think he has. He's very selective. He also lays the ground rules. These are all things we learned at Federated, and you would learn at any sales organization that actually invested in their salespeople. But like, he lays the ground rules down, right? Like, hey, Mr. Business Owner, if I'm going to do this, this is how it's going to have to work. Blah blah blah. Like we talk about that, getting the markets you want to get to, getting the premiums up front. You know, checking all those boxes to make sure it's a good use of your time. Getting the policies, doing a policy audit. We call it due diligence. So very similar things that he's running, right?
Got it. How big of a radius is he? So like how big of an area, like his out and back, when I've done drop-ins before, you know, I would try to make it say maybe 2 hours. So it was
Yeah.
like I would hit, you know, 4 or 5 on the way out and then hit 4 or 5 on the way back. So it's kind of like an out and back. Or, you know, just hit the 2 hours out first and then hit the furthest one and work my way back. So I guess my question is like do you know how big of an area he's calling on or building these routes in?
Yeah, I mean, from conversations, I would say he probably gets out about a 2 hour radius from his house to maybe, again, he can call anywhere. He can go over to a state over if he wants to, but I think for the most part he's sticking to that 2 hour radius, north, south, east, west from where he lives. I just know for sure it's a lot of rural area. Um, these people aren't necessarily getting hammered on by big brokers, or if they are, there's just phone calls only. And so he's popping in, showing his face, and
Mm.
shaking hands.
All right, I got a question for you.
Okay.
If somebody is bored to death making all these calls, what is your take on just hitting the road and following this
Oh,
prescription?
my take is I put this in the Substack. I said, do whatever works or what makes works for you. Um, I did the drop in only method for, well, I was at Federer for almost 3 years. Uh, honestly, by the end of it, dude, you're not working that more than 25 hours a week anyways, because you're at Federated, we were constricted to a territory. So I couldn't just call everywhere. So you kind of get bored because like I only have these 3 counties I can call in. So it wasn't like the world my whole oyster. So um, putting some restrictions or constrictions on you are probably good because otherwise you can go crazy. Like I want to call everywhere, which I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of us agents do. Um, but I no man, I think so I know like when I first started, I was doing the business plan was 10 drops a day. I was doing a lot of times 20 to 30 in that range. You know.
Of course you were.
Well, I mean, you're just trying to get opportunities, but yeah, no, I'm all for it. I wouldn't care. Like I've always said like I've kicked around the idea of just trying it for a month or two, just for the heck of it. I mean, I've done. The thing is, my numbers have been pretty solid on the phones. So, and
Yeah,
now
but
that
they ain't been. Yeah, actually, they have been. You did right close
yeah,
with that on the phones. Okay, so here's my question: if you were a new producer, would you recommend doing phones or getting on the road and doing this? Let's say you're just
here,
starting out
okay.
here. You want to,
Here's the perfect. I've been thinking about this. I think this would be the perfect model. Like, um, is to how we work out 5 to 6 months. So if you have insurance X data, or you have some way to get a master list of leads, you look out 6 months. And every month, at the beginning of the month, you find, I would say, let's say 20 businesses 6 months out that are in like 100, like that are in, this combines the best of both worlds, that are in, let's say, a 60-mile radius of your house. So every month you find 20 businesses within 60 miles. And what you start doing is you, that month and over the next 2 weeks, as if it's 20 businesses, one day each week, you do 10 drops. 10 drops on 10, half of them you kill one week, half of them the next week.
Wouldn't you need 40 businesses? I'm not great at math, but
20 businesses, then you do 10 drops each trip. So
so
day one, week,
you're only doing one drop a week.
correct. So once a week you do
Okay, got it.
drops.
Okay, got it.
This is just the perfect model because this is the way to get it where you're working out, because drops take more, I think take, I don't want to say take more time, but those 20, you got to follow up with them and all that other stuff. So I'm just kind of building that in there. But I'm trying to say in terms of efficiency and staying close to your house, right? But also not writing small accounts just to be like, well, I don't have enough big accounts within a, you know, 50-mile radius of my house. And so like that's where I think if you can get 26 months out every month, and then you're doing basically a day a week of drops, right? Or you could do 40 and you could say, hey, over the next month, one day each week, I'm going to hit 10 of those. And so I'll pick off all 40 over that month. I'm not going to keep dropping in on them over and over again. I'll do the one drop and then I will follow up on the phones, call, whatever. Um, at Federated, it was always drop in though. So it was like you dropped in once a month at your prospects, right? You created a top 75 list or whatever. And every month you're dropping. It got to be a little overkill, to be honest. Um, they know who you are after a while. It's like there's no point in just dropping in to drop in. And so that's what I'm, so in a perfect world, that's what you would do, and then you'd make your calls around that, and then you'd still be calling, and I think you could mix it up. So I think a blend, however you want to do that, um, is my answer.
Man, that shit's got to get expensive with gas, though. Good lord.
Expense budget, it's all expensed. So
Yeah, not everybody has your expense budget there, Chief.
not everyone has your splits either, Chief. Uh,
Fair.
um,
Um, that was pretty savage. Um,
but no, but I think at the set, here's the heart of it, guys. Like, and this is what I put in the Substack. We can get so dogmatic about certain ways of doing things. At the end of the day, the goal is revenue, right? So how do you get there? I don't care if it's cold calling. That's the method you and I subscribe to, and maybe you want to try the dropping in. Go for it. I
I'm
think
thinking
one of
about
the,
doing it next year.
yeah,
Go like do stick with it this year, and then next year guinea pig that for a year, and then compare the two.
I don't even think you have to get it pig it for a year. I think you could do it for a quarter, like 3 months. Just be like every day I'm going to be organized. I'm going to hit the road, but you got to be organized. You got to, I mean, even on the phones you should be, but on drop-ins to make it work, because it's already an inefficient process. You're going to see 10 people in a whole day, and you're hoping maybe one or two come out to talk to you. So, you know, you want to be very efficient with that process. And but yeah, no, I think you have a good personality to do it. I think like I liked it. I think when they came out to talk to you, it was fun making small talk and just chatting, and um people will come out to see you. That's the thing, especially in rural areas and areas that aren't hammered. They'll make the time. You'd be surprised. You'll talk. I don't know what the numbers were at when I did it at Federer. Like what feels like 2 out of 10 would come out to say hi or whatever. But I just know they gave us 10 as a plan because they figured if you follow this, you'll be successful. You'll hit your number of PNC sales you need to hit in a year. The difference there was we had a unique product to sell. That's what's kind of cool
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the way that this
exclusive
guy.
product.
That's what's kind of cool about this guy doing it because he doesn't have a unique product to sell, right? He's at an agency, and it still worked for him. Because at Federated, I was always like, well, yeah, we're dropping in, but we have an exclusive product, so it's kind of like come out to see me. Here, you're just another agent. So,
Yeah, but I think there's a lot to like showing up in person.
yep,
I feel like whenever somebody ever has made inroads in my account, it's one of two people. It's either a friend right in their network, or somebody that friggin' dropped by on them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like there's something about that person to person. Um, yeah, that's so true. It's either somebody that they know, like, hey, I ran into this guy at my son's soccer game, and he works for Assured Partners, and he's
Let me give them a look.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it's yeah, I'm just thinking about one of my tow accounts. It's like, hey, we had this guy drive in from Arkansas, and he said this, and so we're gonna whatever. And I'm like, huh, that's there's a lot. Yeah, okay. Um, so kind of on this subject, that's interesting. While we're talking about different ways to play the game, I talked to one of my buddies through LinkedIn, who I've never actually met in person, but he and I probably talk once a month. Shout out to RW, you know who you are. Um, anyways, one of his friends works for a local privately owned agency that's really they kick ass. They are.
Okay.
If I was acquiring an agency in my neck of the woods, this would be the one
That,
I would acquire. They
okay.
never their stuff's always buttoned up. It's anyways. So, anyways, one of the head guys over there that works for him, he was telling me about how he does it. He basically bought this Sprinter van with like a bed in the back and Wi-Fi and all this stuff, and he just hits the roads for probably like 3 days a week. And so he'll just do, how we're talking about like doing out and backs. He just
Yeah.
goes out, but he doesn't come back. So he's just gone. He's like almost like a territory rep. So
Yeah.
he'll get up in. He's based out of Mississippi, but he gets up into Arkansas and way over into Texas, and he gets over into Alabama and down to the coast. And he just goes and he'll get out. He goes and sees people. He does a lot in the oil and gas and also construction. And he
Yep.
gets out and it's kind of operates like an overnight territory rep. And I thought that was fascinating. And the dude's got like a $2 million book. He's crushing
Wow.
it.
That's
Uh,
I've
just
talked to other
on the road agent.
guys. Yeah, that's next level. I mean, if you had, I guess if you have a family, you can do it too, but I wouldn't want to necessarily do that. But also you'd be eating a lot of fast food on the road, I think. But that's crazy. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
asked him. I said, "Well, clearly he doesn't have a wife and kids." And my buddy RW said, "No, actually he does. He's got a couple of kids and he's married." And I was like, "I I don't know how he's pulling that off because we're playing different games here. I have different parameters
yeah, that'd be a tough one to swing. That'd be a tough sale to to the
with
wife.
with
I would be
our
gone
with our
for
spouses."
Yeah, I would be gone for 3 nights a week. So we'll see you at the weekend. Yeah, man. No, the drop-in method, dude. And it's funny because we just want to. This, I think the bigger theme here is you go on LinkedIn or something. Don't get delusional on LinkedIn, like with everything you see. And a lot of people out there are spewing, especially if you're a producer and you're spewing like SaaS selling advice from these people who've sold SaaS and we're an AE at this big SaaS firm or whatever. Don't let that like kind of muddy up your thinking and thinking that all these buyers have changed because humans really haven't changed that much. Yes, buyers have access to more information, they can educate themselves quicker, but still humans at our core, like you said, the connection of just like shaking someone's hand, stopping in, saying hello. Um, there's the idea of working hard, grinding, numbers game, all those things that people are like, that's from the 90s. Guys, a lot of it still is true today, like about sales. It's kind of a numbers game. It's kind of people liking your game. It's kind of working hard game. I mean, there's not like we want to make it.
the
You know,
the older the problem, the older the solution.
that's a good dude. That's that's gold right there. I like that. Never heard that.
I dropped that like 3 episodes ago. You must not have been listening.
Probably wasn't, but maybe I was just sipping my matcha.
Speaking of matcha, my wife introduced me to yerba mate.
Oh yeah.
Uh, okay, so I've had it in the can before. I'm not overly impressed. It's just like a whatever, like green tea, whatever, take it or leave it. But she got me this because I'm really trying to get super healthy.
Hmm.
My I'll just side note, but with the health scares and all this other stuff, I'm like dropping weight. I'm trying to get super healthy, get my shit together, be around for the next 40 years. And so, anyways, uh, she's like diehard Huberman, all that stuff.
Hmm.
And so she got me this little yerba mate kit where you actually have this little wooden, almost like pedestal.
Yeah,
Is it called a pedestal?
yeah.
A
Toria has a
mortise
yeah.
and pedal or what? Okay, anyways. So, but it's specifically made for a yerba mate thing. It's also a mug, and you put
Hmm.
these like leaves in, and you squash it, and then anyways, why I'm telling you that I don't know. Other than the fact that let me just say, yerba mate coming on the heels of norovirus wasn't a good combo. So
Ooh,
just yeah, don't
yeah.
don't do
Be
that.
sipping those for a while. uh, yeah, that's interesting. Um, I don't know where to take it from there.
I thought that was a great name for any softball team or like the Screaming Memes. Do you know what Screaming Memes means?
I had at one point. I feel like I know I've heard it. I don't know what it pertains. Is it like
Just look it up when we get off the podcast.
okay, okay,
Screaming Memes is what you get after you add yerba mate on the back of neurovirus.
okay? Oh, did I ever
TMI.
tell you this?
Uh,
Did I ever tell you the story of my? Speaking of doing drops, did I tell you
oh,
the
I've
story?
got so many drops. I've got so many poo
No,
stories about drops. Go ahead.
okay, but this one is a classic, and I don't think he's gonna listen. This is an old Federated buddy, dude. He's out there in the field doing drops, in a rural territory. And there's no bathrooms around or whatever,
Mm,
and he had a big renewal meeting coming up, but he
mm.
sharts himself in the car, I think, because he couldn't hold it. Goes in like to the meeting, tries to like get there early, go to the bathroom, like wipe it off his pants, but that smell, dude, is like. And so, anyways, he sat through the meeting and like, yeah, sharted himself. I don't know if he had to throw away
In
his
the
underwear, just
meeting,
like free ball. He shart himself before the meeting. And then you get to the meeting, and it's like, what do? You don't have a change of pants, all this other stuff. So,
dude, the
yeah,
life of a territory rep in a previous career, I was a territory rep for basically lumber and millwork, and I had a two-state territory. And dude, you have stuff like that happens all the time. The old shart the pants on the way to a client. I've got at least 4 or 5 of those. And
yeah,
the way you get around that is you come in, you're like, "Hey Bob, go straight to the bathroom." Okay, you go straight to the bathroom. You take off your undergarments. You put it in the bottom of the trash can. Cover it up with wet brown paper towels so it masks the smell. Okay.
yep.
Hopefully it didn't leak through your underwear so you can then go commando into the meeting. But
That's
yeah,
the
done
key.
that.
If it
You
leaks, you're
just have
done.
to. Yeah, well, and you hope they don't find your disposed of undergarments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. My brother-in-law's a pharmaceutical rep too, and a big. Well, not anymore. He's like in upper management. But when he was, and we'd be calling each other on the road, they'd be like, "Bro, you won't believe what I saw," or "Hey, man, dude, I had this thing happen to me today." Because somebody should write a book.
Oh, yeah,
That there was that book. I hope they serve beer in hell by Tucker
yep,
Max about
yep,
his escapades. It's like that, but PG.
yeah,
Being a
yeah.
territory rep, there's always something going on. The people you run into, or
Oh man,
like your fender benders or whatever. Did I ever tell you about the Taco Bell story about the vehicle that ran into the Taco Bell sign?
no.
Okay, I'll tell you that off air. All right, let's end it there. If anybody's still listening,
Yeah, it's a good spot to end it as any. Um,
Taco Bell and charts. All right, guys,
oh
we
man,
appreciate it. Yeah, have been getting a lot of DMs lately of like people saying, "Hey, this is the podcast has really helped, or the newsletter's really helped." And I just want to say thanks for sending those because that really means a lot. When we do this, we would do it whether we got them or not, just because we enjoy doing this stuff. but it really means a lot when you guys send us stuff. So if the spirit moves you and you feel like that you want to send us a question or send us a win, or just say, hey, you know this newsletter really helped, blah blah blah, don't be afraid to send that to us. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. So anyways, with that,
Absolutely.
we will bid you adieu. Link in the show notes to the newsletter and also to the producer playbook. I still have not figured out the cart situation yet, thanks to the norovirus running through the house. I just didn't get to it. But anyways, we appreciate you, and we'll catch you next episode.
Adios.